Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. I'm going to be setting up my journal to work through the new devotional kit from Bythewell4god, which is called By Invitation Only. I'm going to be patterning this after another journal that I have created that is holding some letters. So I'm going to be making a bunch of little envelopes that I'm going to bind into a journal. So I'm starting with just some cream colored cardstock paper. This has been in my stash forever. I'm just keeping this very, very neutral so that I can decorate the front of them. So I'm cutting these down to like 8 3/4 so that I can get the size of pocket that I want, which is going to be roughly like 4.5 by 6. I want to make sure that I can fit those scripture cards in there as well as all my notes and everything. So I'm just using this We Are Memory Keepers punch board, and I'm going through following just the directions. It's very simple. It tells you what size to cut your paper, and then you kind of make where to like line it up at first, and then you do the punch and you line up the score the score that you just made. You line that up with that little line on the left, and then you just keep turning counterclockwise and going around. I've shown this before on my channel. It's, just a nice little tool to have. I have a smaller one of these also that does even smaller little envelopes. But this is going to be the size that I want. And then this corner up here will round all of the corners, so you just get a nice finished edge on your envelopes. So obviously, there are lots of different ways that you could make envelopes. You could even just purchase some envelopes and do the same kind of idea. But what I'm going to do with this is use that twine binding technique, and I'm going to bind these into my cover that way. So I'm starting off with just a cereal box that I have started to cut down. I knew roughly the size that I wanted. I'm going to, now that I have my envelopes all folded and everything, I'm going to make sure that they are going to fit inside this little cereal box here. And so I have trimmed it down some already, but I wanted to make sure that it was going to give me enough clearance. I just cut it down to make it a little bit easier to work with on camera. And so I'm going to just use my ruler here and draw a couple lines. It ends up being roughly like 6 3/4, 6.5, something like that. In terms of the length of it, I'm actually, instead of running these envelopes vertically like I did in the other one, I'm actually kind of creating a horizontal journal this way. So I haven't really done one this size. I'm actually kind of excited about it. Usually when I do these envelope journals, I flip the envelope on, so I'm binding it on the long side, but I'm actually going to be doing it on the short side this time, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But so it just creates a different size journal, and I really love how it ended up because it just reminds me of one of those old-time scrapbooks. And so I'm actually really kind of excited for the way that this ended up turning out. So again, just trimming down this chipboard. I've done this before on my channel. And then I'm going to cover this with some double-sided adhesive. This is the scrapbook.com version. This is like the 4-inch version. And I'm using these scissors. These scissors are new to me. I got them from Simon Says Stamp. I got them actually at a retreat, and they're like non-stick scissors, and they're so good. I was not expecting them to work as well as they do. Usually I use my Tim Holtz scissors for this, but for cutting adhesive, they work great. And at a recent retreat, we stopped at an art supply store, and I found this really awesome paper that is basically cork, but it's like a canvas on the backside. It's really hard to explain, but the front of it is definitely like a cork type of feeling. And so I thought it would just be really fun for this this journal. So I'm just going section by section, pulling off the backing of this adhesive, and just going little section by section. This fabric, I don't know if I would call it fabric or if I would call it paper. But it's just so fun. I've made another journal out of it that's coffee themed that I'm really excited about. But I just thought this would be really fun. And I just love the feel of this. And it works just like paper. And so I'm going to go around and cut this and cover this just like I would any other journal cover. So I'm cutting out some of the bulk at the corners, just kind of creating a little miter basically. So I'm cutting just at an angle, not quite to the corner. I don't want to cut it all the way to the corner because then it won't actually wrap around that part. So not quite to the corners. And then where it's going to fold, I'm just cutting out a little tiny triangle. This is the same process really that I do when I cover journaling Bibles, or really kind of any journal cover that I do in this way. And so now I'm going to go to the inside, and I am going to add some more score tape here, or double-sided adhesive. This is obviously just in a smaller size. I'm going to run this all the way around, but I am skipping the area that is going to create the fold, because that part is actually going to be a little bit exposed until I get the end papers in there. And so I just don't want to have any adhesive just kind of sticking in the fold of this to mess up with the spine, just trying to keep the bulk out of the spine as much as I possibly can. So I added, I first flipped up those spine pieces, and now I'm going to work on this side. I'm going to do the long sides first, and then I will come and do the short side. So anytime you're wrapping, you kind of want to do opposite sides. So if you're going to do top and bottom, then you want to do that first and then do the left and right. It just makes for a cleaner look when you're finished. And I did add just a little bit of art glitter glue right at the edge of that top section, just to make sure that that stays down really well. Ultimately, probably not necessarily, since I'm going to be adding some end papers in here anyway. And then I just went ahead and did that to both sides and got my entire cover wrapped. And then I'm just working the spine just a little bit, making sure that it's going to fold, just kind of really training it at every time I add a layer. And so I decided to use these purple papers from the devotional kit, because I really just wanted to have this purple in there. If you know me at all, you know that I love purple. And so I just thought this would be a beautiful inner cover. And because I needed to run it horizontally, I didn't have to worry about the pattern or anything that way. So I do need to trim it down just a little bit. These papers are obviously 6 by 8. So I'm cutting it to, I think, like 5 1/4, something like that. So that I do have an edge all the way around. And then I'm going to go through and just kind of just do this same process all over again. I'm going to add that double-sided adhesive. Again, here I'm using this 4-inch. I'm really just trying to use up this 4-inch. I don't know that I will ever buy this size again. It does cover a lot of surface area, but it's just kind of unwieldy sometimes. So I like the smaller sizes a little bit better, but that's neither here nor there. So I have added that, and I'm just kind of lining up. I'm trying to line up the stripes as best as I can. In the end, you won't really see it because that's where the spine is, but there are going to be just a little bit of an overlap in the center, which is going to work out perfectly. So what I do is with one of these end papers here, I'm just lining up the corner. You can see I've sort of pulled back that release paper just a little bit, so that I can really get it in place first, and then I push it down, and then I'll come back and take off this other release paper. This just gives me a little wiggle room, because this scrapbook.com paper or tape is so sticky, and I need to make sure that I can line this up, straight across. So it just works out better to do it this way for me personally. So it just gives me a little bit of wiggle room. I can kind of line it up. You'll see me here, and then I'm going to push in that corner, and that's going to adhere that one corner, and then I can just pop off the release paper, and then the rest of it will go down just fine. And then I am using my bone folder here just to burnish this down really, really well, especially across the seams, across the edges. And then I'm going to use this to kind of now train those folds in the spine. And so I'm just very, very slowly, very carefully pushing that bone folder into the gutter basically of that spine, and then I'm just gradually bending it because I don't want my paper to crack or to tear. And so I'm just kind of training it. I'm just folding it, and then I will go and do the other side. And then I decided that I wanted to add some book corners to this. So these are some Tim Holtz versions. I always add just a little bit of glue in there. You certainly don't have to. And you can kind of really just fold them over with your fingers if you want to, but I just use my little jewelry tool here, some flat nose pliers or whatever, just to kind of make sure that they're secure on there. So I'm going to do that with all 4 corners. And now I'm trying to decide what I want to use for the twine binding part. I decided on this black. I didn't really have the right color of brown, but if you've seen me do this before, you basically, for however many signatures you want to add, you're just wrapping this around. So you start with the long piece on the outside, wrapping it around. I'm going to wrap it around obviously 14 times because I want one envelope for each day. So I'm just going to wrap that around 14 times. So I have now one coming from the top and one coming up from the bottom. And I'm just going to straighten these up really quickly before I tie them. And then before I do anything else, I'm going to take those 2 pieces and I'm going to crisscross them over all of the strings. And then that one on the left, I'm going to turn and take it up underneath all of those strings over to the right side. And then from here, I kind of had to pull it out with my pencil there, but once I have it over here, then now I can actually tie this, and it's going to gather all of those strings together. You can kind of see, and you can do this like up at the top. You could do it in the middle if you wanted. In hindsight, I wish I could have done it more toward the middle, but typically when I do this, I do it kind of the top third. And so then I just tie it in a square knot, just to make sure that it's nice and secure there. And you want to do it, you know, tight enough that it kind of pulls everything together. It just makes that, just has a nice look when you do it that way, but not so tight that your signatures are moving or buckling the journal. But you kind of get a feel for it. And then I left my strings long here because I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those in the end. And then I'll just tie a little bow and leave that for now. So now my journal is ready for me to add my little envelopes into. And I kept them, I haven't glued them closed or anything, you can see here. And so usually I would do it this, like I said, I would do it vertically, but I'm going to do it horizontally. So on this short side, I'm going to put that into the string, and then I'm going to glue this down around it. Now first I want to ink it and distress it just a little bit, so I won't make you watch me do that. I did ink all of these in ground espresso, and then I'm just putting this in here, and then I'm going to add the glue now. And this will kind of secure it into my journal. So I'm adding this on the two side pieces and then on most of that bottom piece, just to get a good, nice seal on there. And that will create that bottom section of my envelope. And then the top section, I will probably use a die cut or a wax seal or something to close that. But then I'm going to do that with all 14 pages. I'm not going to make you watch me do that. This is what it looks like when it's finished. I did add some decorations to the front. One of these journaling cards, I have some cheesecloth. I have a closure that's just some seam binding that just matched. It kind of matches with this cream colored cardstock that I used for the envelopes. And you can kind of see now I'll be able to go through day by day and add everything into these envelopes that I want to. I can decorate the front, and then everything is just nice and closed in here. So that is how I'm going to be working through by invitation only from Bythewell4god this month. There are still some kits available if you're watching this. My affiliate link will be down below. Thank you for those of you who choose to use that. And if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye.